This is the Practical Homeopathy Podcast, episode number 148.
Hi, I'm Joette Calabrese, and I welcome you to our healthcare movement, yours, mine, and the countless men and women across the globe who have retaken control of their family's health with practical homeopathy. So, for the next few minutes, let's link our arms as I demystify homeopathy, what was once considered an esoteric paradigm, into an understandable, reproducible, safe, and effective healthcare solution available to all. This is the medicine you've been searching for, my unique brand of homeopathy, practical homeopathy.
I'm Kate, and I want to welcome you back to the podcast. We love it that you're here with us. Today, I have a special mom with Moxie with me. And if you want to know if homeopathy can help you or your family member with allergies, rashes, anxiety, toenail infections, sunburns, eczema, tailbone injuries, chronic shoulder pain, and so much more, you are in the right place. Susie's going to share her homeopathy stories with you and how she learned to address these conditions. So welcome, Susie.
Thank you, Kate. It's great to be here.
Yes, it's great to see you. Normally, we get to see each other in person at least a few times a year. So it's fun to see you, even if it's on the screen today.
Yep, it has been a joy to meet you and your team. It's been great. I love it.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a homeschool mom. My family and I live in South Florida. We're a big boating family. My husband is a mariner. He's a captain. I have two boys, 18 and 13. And in all these years, homeopathy has blessed my family in many ways. And so I was always into researching things. And when my son started presenting with severe allergies and asthma issues at 5 years old, I decided that it was time to look into other modalities because the remedies that were being offered to me with allopathic medicines had a lot of negative side effects. And so I began searching, and people knew that, and people were sending me articles and things that were further along in their study of natural remedies. And I found Joette. And that was a pivotal moment in all of our lives because that was 9 years ago. I can't even believe it. Already 9 years. Anyway, it was right when Joette was starting to offer courses. And I think I heard about her right before Allergic came out. So it was a godsend and it was timely. And, we'll go more into it, but that was basically how I found Joette and what springboarded me into using homeopathy.
I love something that you said. I found Joette after a friend sent me a recording of Joette discussing fevers, and then you wrote "sold."
Absolutely. It was life-changing. I had never really heard anybody speak about things like I had heard Joette speak about them. And it made so much sense. And, Joette and I share a Sicilian background, and so many things about Joette I can relate with. And it was a match made in heaven for me, and she's become my mentor, sort of like a mom, grandmother that I don't have anymore. And it's just been such a blessing. Yeah. So it made so much sense.
And then you started listening to podcasts and taking some of the courses and learning more and more and applying those things to the conditions that your family or those you had contact with who had conditions. So I think it would be great to hear some of those success stories if you wouldn't mind sharing some with us.
Sure. So early on, I didn't have everything memorized. So I would write down, the name of a podcast. If I knew someone in my homeschool community had a child suffering with, an ailment, I would refer them back to these podcasts or the blog. There's a few stories that stick out in my mind. And one was a mom who had been so freaked out because she kept going to her doctor and she had these enlarged lymph nodes on her neck. And I guess maybe she had some illnesses in her family. So she was super freaked out. And I had sent her the blog, 5 Reasons to Own a Homeopathy Kit and My Favorite Remedy for Soft Tissue Infections, which addressed her issues, the enlarged lymph nodes. And she began taking the advice from the blog. And within just a few weeks, everything had disappeared and another believer made. So that was cool. Another girl, a younger girl in our community, suffered from peanut allergies and anaphylaxis. and just environmental allergies in general. So every time we'd enter the church where we held our homeschool meetings, she would start breaking out, getting hives, and it would really affect her. So I had read the blog, Yikes, Peanut Butter and Bee Stings, Anaphylaxis, and I offered for the mother to offer her child, Apis and aconite, alternating them during one of her episodes. And after a few doses, it had really calmed down. And all of these things just added up to make me trust homeopathy more and more. Because in the beginning, you're not really sure what to expect, how much to rely on it. But this has been bolstering my trust in homeopathy big time from the beginning. And then our good friend Beth, who you know too, her husband had developed a severe allergic reaction with super red rash on him. And, she had tried the normal remedies that you go to and they weren't working. But during an allergic class, I remembered Joette mentioning a remedy, Rus venenata. It was for a deep, deep red rash. And I told her that and it worked. And, we were just like high-fiving. Yay!
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 Okay, so tell us about some of the success stories with your family, because these are some incredible success stories, like almost unbelievable.
My son and my father are two of the ones that it has helped the most, because my son, like I said, had developed childhood asthma. Every time the air conditioning would kick on and it would blow past his face, he would start wheezing, and he had severe reactive airway. And he would get really sick several times a year. And we were in the hospital many times, admitted with pneumonia and everything else that comes along with it. So many steroids, so much albuterol and nebulizers. And I took the allergic class and started employing the remedies that I was learning there to uproot these conditions. And, there was some steps back and steps forward, but ultimately, I wasn't afraid because, like Joette says, these medicines are safe, relatively safe, as long as you're following protocols and knowing what to look for. And I think that's what was so helpful, is knowing what to look for using these remedies. So probably within about 6 to 8 months, things were improving significantly. No more nightly wheezing, no more albuterol inhalers at midnight. The steroids would make him kind of very irritable. So all of that combined has just greatly improved his quality of life and has lowered my anxiety. And he's 18 years old now. This started when he was like 6. So, he basically doesn't even need an inhaler anymore at all. It's been wonderful. And that wouldn't have happened without homeopathy. And another good story that I love to tell is my father, who he's elderly. He was 80. I guess he was about 80 years old. He started developing, sciatica pains, very, very severe pain throughout his whole body. None of the remedies that the doctors were giving him, the allopathic meds, the painkillers, nothing was working. In fact, made him worse, made him not eat, made him lethargic. And basically, he collapsed at home one morning. We had to break down his door and the paramedics had to take him in the hospital. So he, after a lot of probing and figuring out, they gave him a spinal tap and found out that he had an illness called CIDP, which is chronic demyelinating polyneuropathy. And basically, it's sort of like the chronic of Guillain-Barré syndrome, but it's chronic. So I didn't know what to do with that. There was so much going on there that I actually wrote into the Banerjee Clinic and they gave me a protocol for it. And I'm telling you, Kate, within 3 or 4 days, I could see a significant difference.
Wow.
And yeah, we kept with that protocol for about a year. And I was going back and forth with them, checking in, making sure all was good. When we finally went to a follow-up visit with his neurologist, she goes, I'm sorry. I think that your father was misdiagnosed because people with this illness, they don't get better. They only get worse. So, I didn't say anything, but I would, just so pleased that, yes, he was weakened overall from this. He's not really been as vibrant as he once was, but he is way better than what would have been had he been on gabapentin, all these drugs all these years. Yeah, so that was a big one. And he used to faint continuously. He had hypotension, postural hypotension. So every time he would get up after laying down, he would get lightheaded and many times just faint flat on the floor.
Wow.
And I had come across a Banerjee protocol for that. And he was on that for a good 6-8 months and never fainted again. So yeah, this stuff works. It's amazing.
Isn't it incredible? It's life-changing.
Absolutely. And then there was another time that he was talking with me and his texts weren't making sense and his language was all garbled. he wasn't speaking well. So I had never had an encounter with someone having a stroke, but that was in fact what was happening. So when I got to his house and the ambulance was on the way, I just started dosing him aconite, arnica, aconite, arnica. By the time they got there, they actually didn't even want to take him in because they thought he was so much better, but they did. And they did find that he had a small stroke, but he did not suffer any major repercussions from it. There was no muscle loss or any of that. So was it the aconite arnica? Yeah, I'd like to say it was, a huge help right from the start. The earlier, the better.
Mm-hmm.
So that was great. He's had so many. I mean, he's had unknown lip swellings, anaphylaxis, and apis to the rescue. He couldn't even believe it. He goes, I start to feel the tingle and you give me those little pills, and the tingle goes away. That's amazing, Dad, isn't it?
I love it. So many people use that terminology, those little white pills.
Yeah,
those little white balls.
Exactly. And one more that comes to mind is, so when he came home from the hospital, he was catheterized for that week or whatever he was in there. And he got home that night and the pain started and he couldn't go. Recalling those blog posts, Joette wrote a blog called S is for Staphysagria. And it was all about how to deal with problems with urination after catheterization. So 2 doses of Staphysagria, all better. That was another ER trip avoided for sure.
Yes. So let's go on to your other son and an infection that he had.
He came up to me one day and his big toe was just bright red and nasty looking. And he was saying it was throbbing and it was hurting. And I just remembered belladonna. That's the keynote for belladonna, hot, red, and angry. Every time someone said, I say, what does that look like? It's hot, it's red, it's throbbing, it's angry. Belladonna. So a couple of doses of belladonna. I think we did it a few times on the first day and then went to twice daily for a couple of days, all gone.
And again, another trip to the doctor avoided.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't like going to the doctor. If anybody knows me, they know that.
Who does? The doctor and the dentist. No one wants to go.
Nope, you are right.
Okay, so living in Florida, I know that you have encountered sunburns, right? So tell us about your husband and one time when he got a bad sunburn.
Right. So my husband's a workhorse. So when he goes out to clean the boat, he will go out lunchtime till 7:00 at night and be cleaning that boat with no shirt on. And he came in one day and he was just fried. Many people in my group that I have a study group, but that's another topic, but they had been telling me that they use Cantharis for sunburn. So, and then Joette recently has been starting to talk about sunburns as well. So I decided to give him Cantharis 30. I think I gave it to him once and a half an hour later, I gave it to him again. And half an hour after that, I said, how's your sunburn feeling? And he goes, oh, I totally forgot about it. Score. That's great. It's a great tool because you're right. We are out in the sun, sometimes morning till night, and inevitably sometimes we get burned.
And you've used Cantharis instead of putting on a lot of sunscreen when you guys travel and you're gone for weeks and spending, like you said, maybe all day outside.
Right. So we spend, 2 months in the Bahamas each year, and my children absolutely hate sunscreen. And so having these remedies to use instead of, in the morning, I'll give them a dose before we go out. If they seem red midday, I'll give it to them again and it stays red throughout the day. I'll do it again at night. Over time, by doing that, they have not gotten as sunburned at all like they used to get, especially my little one who's very fair. But, if the sun's too strong, we use our common sense. We'll put a hat on, put a shirt on, and we're good to go. Not putting all those sunscreens on with all those chemicals gives me peace of mind.
Right. Do you have any other stories before we wrap up the podcast?
Sure. So for me, I've had a couple injuries myself. And one year while we were in the Bahamas, I was stepping onto our little dinghy and it was slick. So my foot just gave way and I fell flat on my tailbone. And in my purse, thank God I carry some things in my purse. I had aconite and I had hypericum, I think both in a 200. And I just started alternating them until I calmed down and the pain started to calm down. And I think I had to use it probably for several weeks to a few months till the pain was totally gone. But yeah, it was amazing how quickly I got back on my feet. It did not ruin my vacation where it could have, for sure.
What is it with vacations and landing on your tailbone? That happened to me on a vacation as well in Puerto Rico. And I landed on my tailbone on marble. And I had to teach a class that night. It was a homeopathy class. I also took hypericum and aconite, and I thought I was going to have to go to, an emergency room because it was really so painful. But the remedies, they worked. And I was able to teach a class that in a few hours after that. Amazing.
It is. It's amazing. I mean, for sure, I think I either cracked it. I did something. I landed hard.
Yeah, I know.
And one other one that sticks out is that I was using sanguinaria for some sinus issues that I was having. And in high school, I had developed severe right shoulder pain from playing volleyball and softball. And, I just really didn't address it because it really only bothered me when I would take on and off a shirt or a bathing suit or something. I could not raise my right arm over my head without a lot of pain. And then after taking sanguinaria for maybe a month or two, I noticed that my shoulder pain had totally gone away. I mean, I can lift that shoulder and do everything I could before. And that was just such an added bonus to, clearing up my sinus congestion that my chronic long-term shoulder pain dissipated.
Oh, wow.
A sinus remedy, But when you know your materia medica, you realize, yeah, that's what it does.
They can do more than one thing. Oftentimes, if you address one of the symptoms you have, it may act and clear up some of the other ones. I've seen that happen so many times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a good one. I mean, I have maybe one or two other stories that I'd like to share. So
sure.
The son that struggled with asthma and allergies also developed eczema on the backs of his hands. Pretty severe. He was a hand washer and he would wash his hands a lot. And I think the soaps and everything else had just been too much for him. I had gone and used some of the specific eczema protocols, and maybe I saw some improvements, but then I added Bovista, which is sort of like an overall remedy for allergies. And within 2 weeks, the eczema was totally gone, never came back. Like Joette says, you can use something, it might not be totally proper for that person, but you will eventually land on the right remedy. And that was for sure. That happened with Bovista, which was great. One other story I like to tell is when this son would develop his allergies or a cold was coming on, he would get a streaming runny nose. I mean, through probably 2 boxes of tissues a day. It'd get all red and it just wouldn't stop no matter what I was using. All of the typical remedies that you would use for running nose would not work in all these years. But once it got to the other stages, all those remedies would work, right? So, if he started to develop the cough and then the chest tightness, I would have those protocols. But the running nose just never stopped. But that would start freaking me out the most, right? Because once you see that runny nose start, you just play the tape through and know what's going to come in a few days. So anyway, I was using a combination remedy, and Joette always says, it's one of those remedies in that combination you could probably pinpoint. So I was reading down and it said for a streaming runny nose. I'd never seen it labeled like that on any remedy before. And it was gelsemium. And sure enough, I gave him a higher potency of gelsemium, 2 doses, and it stopped his running nose after all these years. Just getting those tips from Joette are so helpful.
You said it also made sense because gelsemium is for fatigue as well. And he was usually fatigued and wouldn't want to move.
Right. Whenever it would happen, he would go straight to his back for days and he wouldn't get up. He wouldn't move. He would just lay there. Yeah.
I'm sure these stories are only the tip of the iceberg, Susie. I know that you have so many more. If you are here and you're new to homeopathy or newer, and you're wondering, how do I find the information on helping my family or my friends? There's a search function at the top of the website, joettecalabrese.com, and you can go there and type in a keyword like runny nose or fatigue or sunburn, and it will bring up all of the blogs, articles, and podcasts that talk about that condition or symptom, and it's a great resource. You can also type in one of the search engines, Joette Calabrese sunburn, so it can work that way as well, and it'll bring that information up for you. So, Susie, before we end today, I wanted to know if you could share, how do you learn how to handle all of these conditions, or what did you do?
Well, all of Joette's various forms of teaching have been so pivotal in my growing knowledge and knowing what to do and how to do it. So I would recommend, just starting with blogs, starting with podcasts. If you're in your car, just repeat one after the other, would just listen to them. And I would just have that all in my memory to recall when something came up. And then what I would do is I would download the remedy cards that came with each blog, and I would store them on my computer digitally, and I can access them from my phone. At the drop of a hat, I can just search, and all of those remedy cards are saved and easy to access, and they're free and so helpful. It's just like you said. So I'm constantly giving Joette's name out, saying type her name with whatever you're looking for in the search engine, and you will find it. It will come up with either a blog or a Monday Night Live or something. If you're on Facebook, you could go through there too, right? She's on so many platforms now. Yeah.
I know that you've also taken some of Joette's courses and you're in the academy as well. So how have those helped you?
Right. So certainly after I took allergic, that was timely and needed, right, for what I needed it for. And then after doing that, I decided that I was hooked. I just couldn't get enough. I took the mindful course. I took Good Gut, Bad Gut. I took Feminopathy. A good friend of mine and I are still involved in doing biweekly classes with a local group of ladies going through the courses one by one or, doing the Gateway to Homeopathy classes. Those are amazing. I've probably taken Gateway 1 and 2 3 or 4 times each now. And hopefully I plan to teach it too. So that'll be great. So then that led me to joining the academy because I wanted more practice with case taking, more chronic stuff. I mean, I kind of felt pretty good doing the acutes, but getting into chronics can be a little bit more complicated and a little bit more difficult to navigate. So the academy has really bolstered my confidence there. And I look forward to mastery because I know that that's where that's leading, just really getting into case study and getting a lot of practice there.
Good. And for those of you who are listening and you're wondering, where do I find a homeopath who's graduated from the academy and or mastery programs? You can find a list of those graduates who are taking cases on findapracticalhomeopath.com. That's findapracticalhomeopath.com. And we'll have that link in the notes for this podcast on the website. It's been so much fun talking to you today and hearing your stories and your passion for homeopathy. Do you have any final words for us?
Learning homeopathy all these years has been such a blessing to me and my family. And after all these years listening to Joette, she has really taken me from freaking to fabulous. And if you know Joette and you've listened to her for any amount of time, you know that's one of her mantras. And I know that if she can do this for me, she could definitely do it for you too. So take time, study homeopathy. It will not disappoint.
Oh, thank you, Susie. What good words to finish the podcast.
Thank you, Kate. It's been great. Love seeing you.
It's my honor to share many lessons on this simple method of using homeopathy for free without affiliates or advertising here in my podcasts, but also my blog posts and Monday Night Lives. But it's critical that you learn how to use these medicines properly. These podcasts should serve as only the beginning of your training. Peruse JoettesLearningCenter.com to find fun study group opportunities and in-depth courses developed by subject. So with the proper training, you can join the thousands of students before you in developing the confidence and competence to protect the health of your family and loved ones with my brand of homeopathy, Practical Homeopathy.
You just listened to a podcast from internationally acclaimed homeopath, public speaker, and author, the founder of the Academy of Practical Homeopathy, Joette Calabrese. Joette's podcasts are available on all your favorite podcast apps. To learn more and find out if homeopathy is a good fit for your health strategy, visit practicalhomeopathy.com.